Hello everybody, my name is Resonance22, and these are my first ever Wi-Fi battles in Pokemon Sword and Shield, and they were each incredibly good. As usual, expect a detailed analysis. While each of us were using our story mode teams, we're all seasoned battlers, and each of our teams were somehow incredibly threatening. These battles were both great. Thank you so much in advance for leaving a like and a comment. A broken capture card, exams, and the quarantine did delay these projects, but we're finally catching up. I have a bunch of great Wi-Fi battles from throughout the entire Gen 8 metagame, from the very first week, which is this one, leading all the way up till now. And I'd love to make this into a series where we can all watch the meta progress. But these ones turned out so well that I had to show them first. If you're interested in competitive Pokemon, I have plenty of detailed tutorials to help you get started. Even though these were story mode teams, I spent these 90 seconds doing some intense thinking, coming up with a proper game plan to somehow topple my opponent's team, which contained some massive threats that I hadn't faced yet, such as Dragapult. Well, by taking a brief look at it, my initial thought was, I think leading with Inteleon was probably my safest option since I could U-turn out of a bad matchup, or maybe I could catch Golurk with a snipe shot. My hope was that maybe it'd be something frail like Gardevoir, and that it could take a decent amount of damage. Any chip on that is really important, since I consider that Pokemon a huge threat to my team, when my primary, I guess, special defensive answer is a Cherrim in the sun. I figured that it could be a problem if that thing actually happened to pack Calm Mind, which they often do. Especially considering these story mode teams, he does end up leading with the Gardevoir, and I will lead with my Inteleon Gauge. I guess the matchup right, as Gardevoir can easily check most of my team with just Psychic and Mystical Fire, two very common coverage moves. I contemplated going for a Snipe Shot for that valuable chip damage since I'm faster, but my opponent, which again we're assuming is running a Calm Mind set, obviously wants as much HP as possible to safely set up Calm Minds for a potential sweep later, so I predict him to switch out. Even though Snipe Shot would still do quite a bit to Corviknight, which I thought he'd go into, because it's usually physically defensive, I opt to U-turn anyway, even though I know it's resisted. This way, it doesn't matter which Pokemon he decides to send out. And since U-turn does deal damage to my opponent, and then allows me to send out a Pokemon, if my opponent switches out in the same turn, this gives me what we call switch momentum, allowing me to have the advantage. He goes on to Corviknight, which is a good play. So now I have the option to immediately threaten out that Corviknight if I want to, forcing my opponent to either switch again, or I can KO the Corviknight in 2 turns if I send out Boltund and just go for Thunderfang. The idea is to continuously force bad matchups upon my opponent with good predictions. So I'm coming into the battle with the following objectives. First, don't get swept by Dragapult since it's faster than my entire team and hits like a truck. I figure my best way of beating it is to keep my double really healthy. So I do decide to send out Maelstrom here, and I go for Nuzzle, hoping to get a valuable paralysis off on anything on his team. My opponent only has 1 electric immunity, and I wanted to see if he'd send it out. Second, Golurk is a huge problem for my own team as it prevents Maelstrom from sweeping, which is a good win condition for me. Third, I probably need Cherum alive, since it can live any hit and if need be, get off a valuable Leech Seed, hopefully stopping either Dragapult or Gardevoir. He sees the electric move coming and he goes into Golurk. As much as I would love to paralyze that Corviknight, he doesn't give it to me. So this makes me realize that in order to take out that Corviknight, this Golurk is just going to be a huge problem. I'm kind of going to have to rely, I think, on pivoting between Barnum, my Corviknight, as well as Dubwool, the 2 immunities, right? Because I have immunity to Earthquake and then I have immunity to the Phantom Force in order to keep this thing busy. Now I actually decided to stay in here and Home Claws while he is using Phantom Force here. It does a lot of damage to me, like a lot more than I initially thought it would, but I was hoping that I could get some chip on it with Power Trip, because really, any chip on this thing is incredibly valuable. I'm even considering Dynamax in here to try and get a sweep off, but I felt like it was just a bit too early. After all, this was my first real battle in Sword and Shield. So I go for the Power Trip here, which is 60 base power now after the boosts, and I have +1 attack. Unfortunately for me, my opponent makes another good play and just Phantom Forces again, so there's no valid target. I was hoping he'd switch out, and maybe I could chunk Dragapult, or he'd reveal another move and stay in. In retrospect, I should have switched out my Corviknight instead. So, we start the battle off on not a particularly great note, in that I took a free Phantom Force on my Corviknight, which can only take 2 more hits from Golurk, so I need to preserve it. I didn't expect that Golurk to be faster or deal that much damage. So now we're into Krako, who is immune. It's just really nice that I have my team structured this way. I go for Cotton Guard. I didn't have the Body Press TR or anything like that, and Body Press is a new fighting type move they added, which deals damage calculated off your defense stat, which is a really cool move. He goes for Hammer Arm and misses. It would have actually done almost nothing because I went for Cotton Guard first. Double already has great bulk, extra defense from the Fluffy ability that adds a weakness to fire, and it's actually pretty fast. I just love my endgame team. It has some pretty hilarious synergy, kinda strategic movesets, and a sketch but respectable defensive core composed of Double, Corviknight, and Cherum, the latter for the boosted special defense in the sun. Now this is actually a pivotal moment in the match, so let's do a replay while I explain my thought process. As you can see here, I had yet to face Dragapult, because this battle happened immediately after I finished the 8th gym, because if you played enough Pokemon, you know that is, of course, when the major rival battle happens, as well as also the major rival battles in real life, apparently. Predicting him to Dynamax, I decide to also Dynamax. Now, I know he's not staying in here, and this is one of the key strategic moments that I've been setting up for. At first, I just wanted to see if my Corviknight could trade with Golurk. While I probably could have traded there, I stopped and switched to Double instead. Now, why did I do that? Well, I've been thinking since the start of the game at Team Preview that there are at least 2 matchups that I need to somehow strategically set up during this match to have any chance at winning. My opponent's team is pretty powerful, and in particular, that Dragapult has the potential to sweep my entire team, especially if it Dynamaxes and gets an attack off first. There's also Gardevoir, because it gets Mystical Fire, which means it can beat my Corviknight. And that's because my Corviknight does not have the Mirror Armor ability yet. And so, in order to beat that, I need to send out Cherrim first without letting Gardevoir set up. Since any story mode Gardevoir usually runs Calm Mind, and is fairly common regardless out of the choice item sets. That Dragapult sweep though was my #1 fear, and I knew I could not let it come out unless I already had Double on the field, because Double is the only Pokemon on my team that if I also Dynamax at the same time, can actually trade hits with it. Even if I lose Double, which I figured I would, if I could just weaken that Dragapult enough through Double's sheer willpower and natural bulk, that I could get it low enough to finish it with a Sucker Punch, a super effective one from Gauge, my Inteleon. But I had to secure that matchup and have my big sheep on the field before the Dragapult ever comes out. So how do I do that? I realized during the Corviknight vs Golurk exchange that the only way to do that was to get a free switch with Double to preserve its HP by coming in on a Phantom Force turn. Then I have to use Cotton Guard in case he has coverage for Double, which he did with Hammer Arm, and thankfully that would have done nothing after +3 defense and my Fluffy ability. If he immediately switches out, that's fine. It would be into Dragapult, which while I hadn't faced at this point in the game, I knew that Dragapult could be physical or special, since I spend a lot of time reading and watching competitive Pokemon, both because I love it, and also it does help me make better videos. When I looked at his team, I wasn't 100% sure if his Dragapult was physical or special, but after seeing the Phantom Force from Golurk, I was certain. This Dragapult was special. I didn't think he'd run 2 Phantom Force users, and that my opponent would see a special Dragapult as an easy answer to Double, and an opportunity to sweep me. After all, if I stayed in, his max Wormwinds would keep lowering my physical attack, ensuring a losing matchup for me. In addition, my opponent would probably see it as a necessary switch for me too, since I'm a normal type, and my most reliable dark type attack is only Payback. When you Dynamax, you gain extra HP for 3 turns, and all of your attacking moves become upgraded max moves, with a base power determined by the original move's base power, so my max darkness will be relatively weak. My main objective here though isn't to really do any damage, and I think that surprised him. I just needed to get his Dragapult low enough. My actual objective is to simply survive, and soak up as many hits and turns of Dynamax as possible. I'm basically using it defensively here, just to neutralize his Dragapult, and this will set up me for Gauge to come in later and finish the job straight after. Meanwhile, he goes for another Max Whirlwind, but Krako is proving to be one tough Storm Cloud. As anticipated, his Dragapult is definitely a special attacker, as if it were physical, then this Max Whirlwind would do roughly around 13% after a Cotton Guard. Since I'm taking what seems like 40%, that is likely coming off of a Dragon Pulse or Draco Meteor set. Thankfully here I get a lucky critical hit to finish off the opposing Dragapult. It definitely would have lived another Max Darkness. However, as long as Dragapult is in range of Sucker Punch, which I made sure to weaken it to that point, Sucker Punch from Gauge has a priority of +1, ignoring my foe's blistering fast speed. So either way, crit or not, I'd be relatively safe for the remainder of the match. So what now? First, I think it's really important to stay in, and I'll explain why shortly. That critical hit didn't really change things. While I sack my double, let me know in the comments below what your story team was, and what you think of mine so far. I was thinking of keeping double alive just as a check to his Golurk, right? So that Phantom Force, he just can't keep using it freely. But the more I thought about it, keeping this thing alive at such low HP, I'd be losing so much momentum just sending it in purely for the immunity and then letting the Golurk do whatever it wants, so this gives me switch momentum, ensuring that Gardevoir does not get a free turn. We will sack double, and now send out Nylea, my Cherum. So in the end, the crit, while it helped, didn't actually change the battle at all, because now we're in the position that I wanted, which is essentially, let's not give this Gardevoir any turns to set up. If I switched out and I decided to save my double, that would have been, I think, a huge mistake. So instead, I just need to be able to send out Nylea, like, to force him to take out my double. This ensures no free Calm Minds. Have Nylea come in at full HP, set up Sunny Day. He thinks he's going to win this trade. That's the best part. Oh, but I've played more than enough Pokemon to know where this is going. I technically have been playing since Gen 3, like competitively, but really I got started in like Gen 4 Wi-Fi battling, and that's when Cherrim was introduced. I also played quite a bit of Shoddy Battle and PO later, so I've been trying to make Cherrim viable for, I think, a decade now? So I know that Cherrim is faster, which means that I'm safe to set up the Sunny Day first, as the special defense boost from my Flower Gift ability cancels out the extra damage that Mystical Fire would do. This puts me in a much better position. Because I have the Rose Incense held item, which boosts the power of my Grass-type moves, the Petal Blizzard does a ton. It does so much damage, even after all those Calm Minds, just from the Leech Seed chip and everything. Now he goes for the Psychic, and we're eating it up. All because of good old Flower Gift. And here I go for the Weather Ball, finishing it off just in case the Corviknight comes out. Just in case. I'm revealing the Weather Ball. There's always like a downside for going for that, but again, I still think that that's the safe play. You know, he could have gone out into exactly this thing, Cinderace, which would have resisted either of those two moves, but I figured he'd just stay in anyway, knowing that Gardevoir at that low HP is just not that valuable. So Cinderace comes out, and I'm like, do I need Cherrim for anything? And the answer is, I believe no. Cherrim was an essential part of the match, but I just needed to trade it for one of the opposing sweepers, which thankfully managed to do. I mean, look, Cherrim's so happy, you can't just let it... but I don't want to give him switch momentum. Well, yeah, we took out his Dragapult. And what did it cost? Everything. He goes for Flame Charge. That's pretty interesting. I assume that was just to raise the speed by an additional stage. The sun was up that turn, which does boost the power of any fire-type attack by 50%. And that was one of the reasons why I decided to stay in, is that no matter what fire-type attack he used, unless I wanted to be really bold and go into Miles Edgeworth over there, which I think would have been a pretty cool play, I figured that he might not use a fire move just because I'm so low on HP and I don't want to take any chip damage on Edgeworth. If I can, I want to keep my Arcanine really healthy, really healthy, because I know I'm going to need it later. there's always a chance, right? I just don't want anything taking a sun-boosted fire-type attack, or he could have gone for anything. I was so low, and I just didn't think that Cherrim would ever get to set up again. It had already done its job. I needed Cherrim to trade for Gardevoir. And it did. So we've made the two major trades of the game, which are Dubwool for Dragapult, and then Cherrim for Gardevoir. He goes out into Corviknight here, as I go for Snipe Shot. Man, I love that animation. Look at that. And it does a good amount of damage. So, assuming that his Corviknight doesn't have Roost, which I sincerely doubt it does, I should be able to beat it up. But then I'm starting to think, is this really a good trade? Well, the moves that Corviknight learns, at least in the story mode, Maelstrom should be able to just take all those hits. If a Brave Bird comes out, yeah, well, there's the Brave Bird. Look at this improved animation. Brave Bird's always had a great animation, and here it's just top notch. But yeah, Drill Peck, Steel Wing, Power Trip, etc. Maelstrom can actually take all those hits, even though Boltund does have incredibly poor defenses. And here, I go for the big plays. I know he's going to switch out predicting the electric type attack, because we've been in this situation before, right? Where I really want to nuzzle him. Paralysis is pretty good, but you know what's a nice surprise? I have Boltund go for Charm, because remember, my challenge playthrough has been paying dividends apparently for these rival battles when I get ambushed by my friends after completing the 8th gym. All of my Pokemon are required to have some utility moves, and Charm is useful in not just doubles, but singles too, particularly as a special tech against Dynamax. I have now forced him to switch out, and now I get a free attack. I go for Crunch, because I know his best switch-in is Toxtricity, and it still takes neutral damage from Crunch. I get the defense drop here, and so earlier, the crit on Dragapult didn't influence the match at all. The defense drop on Toxtricity, I mean, depending on whether or not he stays in here, actually does kind of matter, because this Crunch wouldn't kill, and I don't know what his Toxtricity was running, but I don't live that Boom Burst, for example, if he happens to have Boom Burst. Or I don't live whatever poison type attack or anything really that he has. I should live in Overdrive or whatever. So I do just get to KO Toxtricity, which is absolutely fantastic. 20% on the defense drop is quite nice. But the thing is that I kind of set myself up for that situation, thankfully. Now, Cinderace comes out. While I am faster than Cinderace, and I do really want to nuzzle it, or Charm it. Do I actually do that? I do that. Yes, I do. Aw, such a good dog. He's a good boy. But I got two good boys in this team. Yes, I Charm him. Easily some of my favorite parts of these, like, early meta battles are just this, like, anti-Dynamax tech actually being useful. And now I can just nuzzle him since I don't have to worry about Golurk anymore. We're gonna go for nuzzle here. And hopefully I get this thing paralyzed. If I do, then Arcanine should be able to 1v1 it later, which is the goal. But here comes the Pyro Ball, and wow, that is such a sick animation. You know, I could have sworn that Boltund was actually supposed to be 2 base speed faster than Cinderace, but I guess his team's been hitting the sauce and they just have better IVs. And yet we live that, because of Charm. Not just Charm. I know I lived that thanks to the Shell Bell recovery. And now I've got this thing like super crippled, right? I mean, Pyro Ball is base 140 power and it's stab, so it would have done a ton. However, enough of this. It's now time to cross-examine the rabbit by sending out Arcanine. So now I got into Miles Edgeworth here predicting the fire type attack as he goes for Flame Charge, and now I have the Flash Fire boost. In this run, I tried to limit my amount of attacking moves, unless the attacks had secondary effects that defined them. Here my Arcanine runs Will-O-Wisp, and Inteleon is the only Pokemon with 4 attacks. But Gage is of course an indirect combat and naval specialist, boasting 3 attacks with defining secondary effects. I have her Crunch here because he had no Wild Charge tier or anything. Absolutely nothing. And Crunch was my safest play. I still haven't used my Flash Fire boosted move yet. I could have used it there, but what if he stayed in, right? So here I finish off Corviknight with Flame Charge, and this leaves him with only 2 Pokemon remaining. That is going to be Golurk and Cinderace, if I do recall. And now here, once again, we catch him off guard with the surprise off-meta moveset. The Will-O-Wisp. I mean, Arcanines do run Will-O-Wisp online, but in story mode, I mean, you'd probably just run 4 attacks, right? You want to punch people, but I live this Earthquake because of the Will-O-Wisp. And it procs my Citrus Berry. All according to calculations. All within projections. I see now. So, I never really got any chip on this Golurk, which does kind of suck, so I do wonder if it's time to trade some crunches, and I think the answer is yes. Yeah, so I crunch it. I know I'm faster. Get it pretty low. I get the defense drop again, wow. It's a 2-hit KO regardless, especially considering that he does take burn damage when he's underground, and yeah, he goes for Phantom Force again. Interesting that you didn't go for Earthquake. Maybe he was predicting me to switch out or something like that. I just go for Crunch, because, you know, he's going to come up. Hit me with Phantom Force. I live this. Doesn't do much damage. It does a lot less than Earthquake, like a lot less. And the next Crunch should finish him. And I just don't think that he's going into Cinderace at this point, so... because it's just free damage. I'm a bit surprised he didn't go for Earthquake and went for Phantom Force, but I suppose at this point it doesn't make a big difference, as I do have an insurmountable lead. So, we get the Golurk down, and the remaining Pokemon is... Tricks the Rabbit, and we should be able to take that down. I'm so happy with how this battle went. The Charm! Boltund really is a charmer, what can I say? Can't Will-O-Wisp him because he's Fire type, he is immune to that. I'm debating between Crunch or Extreme Speed here, and it just depends if he is a priority attack. Cinderace can learn Sucker Punch, so in case he Sucker Punched me, I actually went for Extreme Speed. He gets fully paralyzed there. As we can see, it so turns out that EV training and having good IVs actually matters, as Extreme Speed is doing literally nothing. He has Quick Attack, though. Maybe that's because you don't learn Sucker Punch just from leveling up. I'm not entirely sure what Cinderace's level up pool is. But now here we exchange priority moves. But I only come out on top here because I have Extreme Speed, and it is an extra priority over Quick Attack. That's +1 versus +2. And also, he got fully paralyzed. I would have lost my Arcanine, but I felt no real reason to switch out there. I could have just easily sent out Gauge and then just finished that thing with a Snipe Shot, or really just done, or Sucker Punch. So I had plenty of backup plans there, and overall, that was an absolutely fantastic battle that I really hope that you all enjoyed. GG, well played to my opponent, and overall, I'm extremely happy with how that match went. Let's review my game plan again and see how things played out. We made a few misplays early on with that Golurk, and you got a really good read there with the Thunder Fang / Nuzzle. But I did fulfill my central objectives, which were trade double for as much damage as possible on Dragapult, as I felt it was really my only answer to it, and then trade there, or Sucker Punch to finish it with Inteleon. And my second objective was to make sure that Gardevoir gets no free turns of setup, and must attack on the first turn it's out, which I did, and then send out Cherum and trade Cherum for that Gardevoir by setting up Sunny Day and Leech Seed. If I could set up those two situations, then I felt like I should be able to muscle my way through the rest of his team, which is exactly what happened. And I did actually come up with that 2-point plan, and the lead with Inteleon because it's safe, so I guess it's a 3-point plan, all in those crucial 90 seconds. I think my depth of planning caught my opponent a little off guard here, and it certainly won't again. And you'll see me face this opponent a few more times for sure. And those battles are awesome. Now, of course, if you want to see how my first actual competitive teams went, then make sure that you're subscribed for when those battles come out. Like I mentioned earlier, definitely leave a comment below telling me what your story team was, and or any thoughts that you had on mine. I'd love to hear more about what Pokemon you chose to bring on your own adventure. And now, on to the bonus battle, because I felt like I should put all my story team battles in the same video, of course bringing the same team. And when I saw my opponent's team, I was immediately terrified. Now, this battle happened slightly later, like I was on Route 10 at that point, whereas the previous battle, I had just beaten the 8th gym. One good look at his team should tell you two things. One, clearly Golurk is one of the coolest Pokemon in the game, so clearly leave a comment below if you used a Golurk, or at least strongly considered it during your playthrough in the Galar region. And two, his team is extremely threatening. He's got Grimmsnarl for all sorts of priority status move shenanigans, with things like Reflect, Light Screen, and Thunder Wave. And with what I immediately saw as a very obvious win condition is clearly sweeping me with Kommo-o. So my number one priority going into this battle, my plan, is to just not get swept by Kommo-o. And then there's like this part of me that's thinking, could he have possibly obtained a Slush Rush Beartic? Is this Kommo-o not his win condition? These are story mode teams here. I didn't really believe that his Beartic was his win condition. I mean, I felt like it just had to be Kommo-o. But you can see here that I'm spending extra time thinking, and I decide to lead with Gauge. This time for different reasons. Not because I plan on you turning out. That's always a possibility. But I just know that I lose to Kommo-o if I let it sweep me. And I'm thinking, how do I stop that? Well, Boltund could nuzzle it. That's one way that I stop that. Or two, I slow him down so much with Icy Wind to the point that Boltund can finish it off, or just another Pokemon on my team can. And, oh god. What's his name, like G-Force Revolver or something like that? He's got the Arcanine shirt. You think I'd be wearing that considering how often I use Arcanine. It's a really, really cool shirt. Well, he leads with Kommo-o, which, I mean, to me that is so ballsy. I was legitimately considering Dynamaxing and just going for Max Hailstorm immediately. Then I realized, wait a minute, no, that's not actually the right play. The right play here is to just know that I'm faster, Icy Wind him, because if he uses Clangorous Soul on turn 1, it's this unique boosting move that they gave to Kommo-o in Gen 8 to compensate for the loss of its Z move in Gen 7, which was insanely powerful. Not only was it a special-based Dragon-type nuke, but also boosted all of its stats. Now granted it was a one-time use thing, but they kind of warped the meta in the sense that it encouraged people to bring quite a few, make sure that you'd always have like a Fairy-type Pokemon on your team to absorb that. Since now it's just a status move, you can't stop it from happening unless you like taunt them. He actually Dynamaxes immediately after, and that is so utterly bold. I really respect that. Dude's just trying to sweep me immediately at the start of the battle. Like, oh my god. So, my one job here is to just spam Icy Wind, get this thing as slow as possible because it's so tanky. And one of the things that's been really concerning me about this situation is that he somehow picked up a Leftovers during his story playthrough. And he's so bulky, it makes me wonder if he even has some Dynamax candies on this thing. But like, oh gosh. Like, he got the defense boost from Clangorous Soul and the special defense boost. So my Icy Wind is doing nothing. I could have Dynamaxed there, by the way, and I think Max Hailstorm would have killed. Especially after the Hail Tick damage. But I really wanted to save my Dynamax. Meanwhile, he's just boosting up more and more with Max Knuckle, which keeps boosting his attack. Now, the ones that boost your stats are a little bit weaker than the max moves that don't, so it's a little more balanced in that respect, but anything that can abuse, like Max Airstream and Max Knuckle, is, oh god, so tough to deal with. So tough to deal with. So here I'm wondering, do I finish it with Extreme Speed? Can I finish it with Extreme Speed? Because there's always a possibility that my opponent goes for Max Guard, which would block the first Extreme Speed, and then the second one might not kill. We saw how little damage the Extreme Speed did before, and even though I have the Muscle Band held item now, it does, you know, additional 10%, that might not be enough after Leftovers Recovery. So here I go out into Maelstrom, and again, I'm a little further in the game at this point. I hadn't beaten it yet, so I had to play rough. I think I had just like learned it from Level Up. Oh, I really do love this song. This song is so good. The entire soundtrack in Pokemon Sword and Shield is just utterly amazing. I go for Play Rough, and he makes definitely the right play here by going for Max Guard to scout to see if I actually have any coverage moves against him, as well as to get the extra turn of Leftovers Recovery, because every turn Leftovers Recovery really counts. He might be so slow, but he is bulkier, and he has leftovers, and he has like plus 5,000 attack. So, still a threat. I'll be very curious to see if he stays in or not, but I'm not risking it. I was considering going for Crunch here. I was, predicting him to switch, but I just had to go for Play Rough here, and he makes a great play, and he does switch. He goes into Golurk, which should take very little damage from this Play Rough. Almost nothing, right? Yeah, a decent amount. Keeping his Kommo-o alive, and he still did significant damage to my team. Like, I'm down a Pokemon. But all I needed to do was stop the Kommo-o from Dynamax sweeping my team, and then we get to play the rest of the battle as a legitimate battle where I don't need to worry about that. And here's where I hatched my master plan. I withdraw, predicting the Earthquake, and I went to Barnum. Please tell me I get it right. Please. Please, Earthquake. Okay, he does. Alright. And I sense weakness. I go for a Hone Claws. Oh, yes. As my trainer in the corner does her determined stance. I love that one. I go for Hone Claws. My opponent's deep in the think tank. Please Phantom Force or do something. Nah, he's too smart for that. He withdraws. He goes into Sobson. Who's Sobson? Sobson is going to be the Inteleon. Ooh, okay, so this is like the opposite of what happened in the previous game, right? Snipe Shot, maybe Ice Beam or something. Probably Snipe Shot. Snipe Shot should do quite a bit of damage, but here's the thing. I saved my Dynamax, and I just got 2 free Hone Claws off. I'm ready for my sweep. I can see why Smogon ended up banning this from singles. Again, it's still legal in VGC, in the doubles formats, and 3v3 singles formats. And I actually do think it adds quite a bit to doubles. It's unfortunate that it wasn't really that balanced for singles. However, despite the incredibly quick, decisive ban from Smogon singles early on the meta, I still would like to upload some very creative teams from back when Dynamax was still legal, as well as many battles from after that. My best battles featuring Dynamax were often against the previous opponent, as we both avoided the typical abusers and tried to keep the mechanic as balanced as possible. It got banned pretty quickly, so I didn't have that much time to play with Dynamax, but those battles were all awesome. He goes for Tearful Look, which I think is a really, really good play to try and just prevent my sweep. And I think the Tearful Look is an interesting move indeed. However, in the end, he set my attack, I think, back to neutral, but with Max Airstream, I think I've just got him, because my speed is super boosted now. I think Max Airstream is one of the biggest problems with Dynamax, if I'm being honest, from a balance standpoint. Like, most of the big Dynamax abusers, well, it's that and its interaction with choice items. I've had so much fun with Gen 8, but... well, we're not done with Dynamax yet, not in this channel. This is my capture card broke earlier this year. Let's give him Max Steel Spike. That means y'all get to see some really awesome Dynamax battles with competitive teams. Because there was a period, right, where Dynamax was still legal, and I spent a lot of time breeding weird counters to Dynamax, trying to think of, the Wolf Flick tech, before really any tech was actually established. Despite all the tech, I think Smogon Singles is probably healthier without Dynamax, assuming that there are no restrictions on its usage, such as trying the mechanic with Zero Candies. Interestingly, the biggest abusers of Dynamax tended to be Pokemon without Gigantamax forms, such as Hawlucha and Gyarados, thanks to Stab Max Airstream, combined with their respective abilities, allowing for huge stat boosts, excellent offensive type coverage, and just great stats. I often wonder if it's worth testing Gigantamax, or allowing for that in a separate format. Gigantamax Pokemon, often, but not always, lack access to their primary boosting Max move, so their sweeping potential is more limited, such as with G-Max Corviknight and G-Max Dreadnought. But there are of course exceptions like Lapras. I get swaggered, and I actually hit myself in confusion. I don't think he should have swaggered me there, but that may have been his only way out, is just getting absurdly lucky with Swagger RNG, because now he's essentially reset my attack stat, and I should just be able to sweep him. Still, I think knowing which Pokemon at Team Preview can Dynamax, by only allowing G-Max forms, would have eased a lot of the volatile unpredictability, helped break the oppressive bulky defensive cores and very slow metagame on Showdown, and even though it would likely turn out to still be quite strong, I think it would have been nice to have another format with it, just to preserve the feel of Gen 8 and allow for some experimentation. It's an interesting thought. And he's about to eat this drill peck. Hopefully now you can also see why I threw this in as a bonus battle at the end. Alright, at this point, I've basically swept my opponent with Corviknight, so we'll wrap things up. GG, well played to KingWell45. I think he was just having fun leading with the Kommo-o immediately on turn 1 to try and sweep me. But I kinda saw that coming, and I think a lot of people have underestimated the strength of my story mode team. And so, I was prepared with Inteleon to spam Icy Wind to keep that thing very, very, very slow, and have multiple answers afterward in the back to finish it off. If folks don't mind repeat opponents and you look back at the metagame as it has evolved, starting with early replays and going into the present day metagame, I'd love to upload a ton more of Pokemon Sword and Shield Wi-Fi battles. I have a lot of truly great ones, back from when Dynamax was allowed, all the way to the Isle of Armor metagame, and soon the Crown Tundra, and beyond. Also let me know if you'd like me to revisit the older generations, such as Gen 7, as I think it could be an enjoyable breath of fresh air from Gen 8. Please let me know in the comments below if you'd like to see more Gen 8 Wi-Fi battles from across the metagame's timeline, whether or not you mind repeat opponents, and if you'd be interested in the occasional older generation. I'd really love your thoughts. Thankfully, I have a ton of replays from the pre-Pokemon Home meta, where things were very interesting and experimental, as well as a lot of phenomenal Isle of Armor matches that, if you're interested in, do let me know in a comment below. On consoles, it's thankfully rare to see Knockoff, Teleport, Toxic, and Heavy Duty Boot Spam, so I've got a huge collection of excellent battles from across the metagame. These were some fun battles, and just a great way to start off my Gen 8 battling experience. And on that note, I really hope that everyone enjoyed these 2 early Sword and Shield Wi-Fi battle commentaries, featuring my story mode team. I'm so proud of how well they did. Let me know in the comments below what your story mode team was. I'm always curious, and I love to collect those on my league cards. If you found these battles entertaining, then please do let me know in the comments, and consider sharing them around. Just remember that future Wi-Fi battles will all be competitive teams, so those will be far more focused on the educational side, but will still be entertaining nonetheless, of course. Now, due to a number of factors such as the sudden campus shutdowns in the spring, then struggling with the ongoing quarantine, as well as balancing work on my Resonance Spot AI project, it took me far longer than I wanted to get out this commentary. I really hope that everyone can be extra supportive during these times and know that I deeply appreciate it. I'd also like to know if folks are still interested in seeing the vast collection of excellent battles that I have from my library. I also have plenty more retrospectives, indie games, and Nintendo content on the way too. Let me know in a comment below if you'd still like to see those battles from each period in the Gen 8 metagame, including all the earlier ones, as I'd love to share them. There's also a part of me that still wants to wrap up a little bit of my single-player challenge run too, so let me know on that one as well. You can find links to more Wi-Fi battles in the video description below and at the end of the video. And of course, content for a wide variety of Nintendo and indie games that I hope you'll enjoy just as much. If you're craving a more in-depth analysis, then there are plenty of those in the description. There are also a bunch of Pokemon tutorials on my channel, more to come, and as always, your support means a lot to me. I really appreciate everyone's continued support on Patreon. And thank you as well for just watching. I look forward to seeing you all in the next video. Once again, GG well played.